Can I see you a minute, please?
¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday. Welcome, everybody. Sorry about yesterday. I was not able to stream yesterday. I was very tired, and yeah. Well, folks, we definitely have a few things to talk about, and well, I guess we should start with some videos and one clip. I hope everyone had a good weekend, and hopefully we'll get some long weekends soon. I'm definitely in need of that. All right. Yes to long weekends. Hey, how's it going, Cheeseburger Freedom Eagle? Heat, how's it going? Welcome. Welcome. Good to see you too. Very thirsty. All right, folks, let's get this started. Last week, apparently, once again, there was Nazis parading in Florida. And this is what... Whoa! Jesus, that's very loud. This is what people saw off the highway. If you can't quite hear, because it's very loud and very distorted, and there's also a lot of like cars and whatnot. They're just Sieg Heiling. They're just Sieg Heiling off the highway. Normal stuff in Florida. I think that last shot there, Altamont Springs. I can't really see that. Yeah, that's what I thought. Altamont Springs. Altamont Springs. Yeah, it's definitely in Florida. Nazis. Apparently they were there in different areas. Ali with the 11 biddies. Welcome, thank you so much. Members of neo-Nazi groups flaunting swastikas and other hate symbols, shouting anti-Semitic slogans, were marched near Disney Springs and at a park in Altamont Springs, drawing widespread condemnation, except for Ron DeSantis, apparently. A group of about 15 people was spotted at 10:40 a.m. toting flags and clothes with Nazi insignia near the Hotel Plaza Boulevard in East Buena Vista Drive in Orange County. What does this country come to? I mean, yeah, this is Florida. If we're not careful, this type of stuff is more and more prevalent and more normalized. Um, and these people somehow feel that it's okay to do this. And it's not. And it's not a good sign if these people feel like it's okay enough to march around with swastikas Sieg Heiling off the highway. It's not good. It's not good. It's not surprising that it's Florida, but gross. Yep. The governor, to my understanding, at till this day, has not really said much. Much less outright condemned these groups. So, neo-Nazis were also spotted at Cranes Roost Park, where they marched from San Lando Park, an area of Seminole County, Altamont Springs. Police Department senior police officer DiPaola said in a statement. DiPaola. Our police officers were made ready and available to respond appropriately to any potential public safety threat while being mindful of the constitutional freedom of speech. Said, describing those who demonstrated as members of a national neo-Nazi group, many of whom were believed to have traveled from out of state. State Representative Anna Escamani, a Democrat from Orlando, shared a video on social media. I believe this is it, right? Wasn't it? No, this is a different one. Showing the groups at Crane Roost Park, clad in red shirts and carrying black flags, bearing swastikas, marching through the park while chanting, "We are everywhere." Well, I assume that this is the same group, given that they're carrying the same descriptions. Absolutely disgusting stuff. Another example of far-right extremism growing in Florida. In a statement, Sarah Emmons, the Florida Regional Director for the ADL, which tracks incidents of anti-Semitism, said the organization was deeply outraged by the two extremist demonstrations in the Orlando area. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty much this is pretty much par for the course here. A dozen demonstrators, including many waving swastikas and some hoisting signs promoting this. Oh yeah, this is the other incident that I was trying to make a point to. It's also far from the first time in recent years that the Orlando area has been visited by neo-Nazi demonstrators. A dozen demonstrators, including many waving swastikas and some even hoisting signs promoting DeSantis' presidential campaign, gathered outside the entrance to Walt Disney World Resort in June. So yeah. Yep, I mean, no comment from Governor DeSantis at all on this and any of this. Nowhere to be found. Why is that? There exists Patriot Front who are making tours also in northeast part of the U.S. Yeah, the Patriot Front are also neo-Nazis. Not only Florida. No. Nazis certainly aren't limited to Florida, but they find a welcoming reception there apparently. And the governor has yet to denounce them, as far as I know. Patriot Front members continue to resolve cases with pleas to infractions. Oh, not surprised. So once again, Nazis are just parading in Florida and not a peep. He's too busy being fitted for a hood, true. Not too far. Nah, I mean, like, it's really not, because, like, at the end of the day, if you can't even manage to be like, hey, Nazis aren't welcome here. If you can't even be bothered to just say that, like, even if you didn't mean it, it's, like, the most, like, optically easy thing to say. To just be like, well, you know, Nazis bad and we can't have that here or whatever. Like, you can't even be bothered to do that. So for like all intents and purposes, like, no, I don't think that's too far. Hey, Michael Astor, how's it going? Just waiting for Ron to call them brothers. Fantastic Patriots. Oh, this is not too long ago. At least 6 more Patriot Front members recently pleaded guilty to a lesser charge after they and their 25 other co-conspirators were arrested. Oh yeah, these are the domestic terrorists that tried to go do something at a Pride event. They were trying to create a riot. They got off easy. And, like, just to be clear, because of the rise of these incidents that continue to happen, I mean, it's not out of pocket to say, in my opinion, for folks to be more vigilant and to be safe, to exercise situational awareness, because these are violent people. Make no mistake about it. These are violent groups. These are violent people, and that are subscribing to a very violent and hateful ideology. That seems to be more and more commonplace, and at this time, they're feeling themselves enough to be out in public like this. Practice situational awareness, and at this point, you know, do what you need to do to protect yourself. And stay vigilant. All right, so let's take a look at this clip. Very, very insightful. I think a very insightful minute and 11 seconds.
I think the problem that we've had is that we have people decided they didn't really want to work so much anymore through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. You know,
let me stop you right there. Okay? Let me stop you right there. Productivity has been through the roof, and pay the rate of productivity and pay has not kept up even close. Like that, it's not even remotely close. We are now more productive and more underpaid. Okay, so square that circle. We've become more productive, and yet are severely still underpaid. And this guy has the audacity to say that, like, oh, well, COVID has cut down on productivity. Shut up.
Tradies have definitely pulled back on productivity. You know, they have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40, 50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around.
Yeah, so that's about as like out loud, saying the quiet part out loud as it gets when it comes to like the relation between like capital and workers. So basically what he's saying is the working class needs to be reminded that it is indeed the capitalist class that is in control, not them, not the working class, and it is the capitalist class who holds all the cards. And I'm assuming like a lot of this probably has to do with like this guy being incredible. A lot of CEOs and you know, incredibly wealthy people being very salty about the waves of unionization and potential strikes that have happened. So basically, they're saying that we need to remind workers that they work for us, not the other way around. So let's just rewind that for a split second.
They work for the employer.
So basically, like, the two things here. We need to screw the working class so that we can put our boot firmly on their neck, because they're wiggling out, and we can't have that. Their neck must be firmly under our boot at all costs, even if it means that we're going to have to see unemployment jump 40 to 50%, which, by the way, like by default, like that means that unemployment is necessary for capitalism. It is necessary for people to be out on the streets without a job, and without a job, you have no income. Without no income, well, you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't put a roof over your head. So the threat, the threat of that is really, is really what they're basically telling us, right? Hey, Bond, how's it going? Only something scared of losing something would grip so tight. The grip workers too much and will bite. I've always wanted to see what the generational wealth kids work. I've always wanted to see the generational wealth kids work their own factories. Yeah, no. Tradies apparently aren't doing enough. Am I mistaken? Gen Z seems to be defeating the baby boomer work behavior. I don't know what that means, but just like as a general kind of understanding that we are more productive nowadays than we've ever been, and yeah, it's not the pay isn't the pay isn't keeping up, and cost of living is continuing to rise. But yeah, the only thing that's important is to be reminded that that we work for them. They hold all the cards. That's the real important part here. Let's see how that works when they stop working for you. Yep.
40, 50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work.
Yeah, like we need to remind people that at any given point, we need to remind people and remind people that at any given point they could find themselves homeless and or jobless and if they don't have a job, then they don't have the ability to put food on the table and a roof over their head. So we need to remind people that is the real implicit threat here. Because apparently, people, the working class, is getting a little bit too uppity, and yeah, that's not good for them. A-Bond with the 200 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, Pole of France, exactly. This guy needs to be put in the front of the line.
The employer, not the other way around. I mean, there's been a systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them.
Yeah. Yeah, wait, what? The fucking audacity of this guy. The fucking audacity of this guy to be like, oh, we've somehow we find ourselves in a weird, bizarre world where employees are are feeling lucky that our employees are making the employers feel lucky that they're that. Yeah, no shit. Employees, the workers, the working class is what makes the value of the company. Okay? There is no production without the working class. Nothing happens without the working class. And this guy has the gall to be like, yeah, you know, we find ourselves in bizarre world where the audacity of Nope. Where we find ourselves in a quote systemic change where employees feel
The employer is
extremely lucky to have them. Yeah, that's how it's always been, and that's how it always should be. Because without employees, there is nothing. Without the working class, there's nothing. This guy sounds like a douche. He's definitely a douche. Baby boomer and Gen X behavior from 1946 to 1990, working from 25 to 88 hours a week to also get promoted. Thankfully, union gave American weekends. Yeah, yeah, unions did do that.
lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through.
we have to kill that attitude, folks. All right, listen up, you poors. Okay, we need you to continue to be poor, and we need you to continue to. We need to remind you of the implicit threat that is being jobless in a capitalist system. Man. The quiet part out loud, huh? And if that means like reminding you of the implicit threat by having to increase the unemployment rate, then so be it.
Hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it. I think every employer now is seeing it. I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment.
Less arrogance in the employment. Less arrogance. The absolute audacity of this person to say the arrogance of the employees, to have the attitude of like, well, yeah, our employers are lucky to have us, because without us there would be no value, there would be no production. And then to have this guy say, we need to take that down a notch, and really like plant the foot on the neck of the working class. And to do that, we have to do massive layoffs and screw over countless families and people.
laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market, and that has to continue because that will cascade across the cost balance.
Yeah. This is absolutely how the rich think. Because this guy's pretty freaking, like, outward about it, too. Numbers can be interpreted in many ways. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Yeah, eat your gruel and be thankful, you poors. What a freaking ghoul, man. And make no mistake, this is like the basic thought process of like every like CEO. Whether they want to admit it or not, this is how they operate, all of them. And they have to, because that's how capitalism works. For them, anyways. The case, in this case, unemployment stats, again, the numbers can be interpreted in many ways. Yeah, but he's just saying, like, unemployment, like, literally just fire people. Just fire people to increase the unemployment, because we need to put, the working class in its place. Does that make sense? Then again, they should be deeply ashamed of themselves. I kind of appreciate the mask off approach, so I know what I'm dealing with. But then again, they should be deeply. Oh no, they're not. They're not ashamed. They're not ashamed at all. They're not ashamed at all. And who's paying the guy in the video? He's a CEO. He's a CEO. No, he's a CEO. He is literally a capitalist. He's a CEO, and that's why that's pretty important. That's why it's pretty important, because like this is unironically what they think and how they operate. Um, they do not give a fuck. Is he not an actual CEO? No, he's a CEO. I forget what it said at the beginning. CEO of something. Gerner, what's Gerner Group, whatever. Yeah, he's an actual CEO. Again, make no mistake, this is exactly what these people think. And CEO thinks he always has a position, only head position that matters. No, well, CEO positions like don't really, like, CEOs don't really do anything. Not anything of like productive value. And guaranteed, a lot of them think this way. This is why it's so important to understand the dynamic. This is why it's so important to understand the dynamic between capital and the working class, right? And Gerner says that. I doubt it. No, he is. He's the CEO. He's the leader of that company. So I guess for all intents and purposes, yeah. But yeah, like the point of illustrating or showing this is because it really does highlight the dynamic between the working class and capitalists. It's just it's completely diametrically opposed. There is no intersecting interest between the working class and capitalists. They just don't intersect. It's mind-blowing how some different of a world he lives in. Yep. Just send them on a cute little vacay for a few months and just show how we actually don't need them. 100% welcome, Firefly. 100%. How about we raise the unemployment rate by firing CEOs? And CEO, management, and board of directors understand entry level or employees who are not management. I don't know what that means. They don't care about employees. They don't care about employees at all. That's my point. In fact, they loathe employees. They look down on employees. To people like this guy, employees are just another number. Employees are just a little cog in the machine that's only there because they need to. And they want to remind them at all points that at any point you could find yourself without a job and unable to sustain life. They make a law banning CEOs. So yeah, the relationship between the working class and capitalists is completely opposite. There really is no intersecting interest here. All right, let's switch gears.
It's not that we're going to wreck the economy.
Well, not really that switch that much gears. I think it's pretty pertinent or pretty relevant, I guess.
It's not that we're going to wreck the economy. we're gonna wreck their economy, the economy that only works for the billionaire class. It doesn't work for the working class.
United Auto Workers President Sean Fain was on CNN with Jake Tapper, where he made such a fantastic point that
Also, shout out to David Dole for the United Auto Workers using his screenshot. Employees are literally a line item among other expenses and costs to be reduced as much as possible. If they could, they would eliminate your wage altogether. Right. Yeah, 100%. If there was a scenario where capitalists can literally pay you nothing and get your labor for free, that's what they would do. 100% of the time. 100% of the time, if they could get your labor for free, they would. Without question. Without question. Ali with the another 11 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
even Tapper had no way to really push back. So I'm going to get to a couple of clips from this interview that also gets into Joe Biden briefly. And I'm also going to show you a clip from CNBC where a former Ford CEO was on discussing his thoughts on these ongoing contract negotiations between the UAW and the big automakers. Give you a little hint where that's going to go into crazy territory, because this person is not connected at all to reality. But before I get to that, let me first play for you the first clip here. So this is going to be about Joe Biden. I did not really expect Joe Biden to come up in this conversation, but he was one of the first questions that was asked of Sean Fain here. And I really liked the response from Fain.
When you spoke with the lead a week ago,
David's a man in a good way. I agree. And the GOP gets the presidency, more tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations for sure. Yeah. But to be fair, it's not really limited. However, the GOP is very, 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 very notorious for doing so. I wonder why we have the most incarcerated people of any country on the planet. What is prison labor for? What is prison labor for? Sadly, Alex Trebek is gone, but I know the joke. Yep. What is prison labor for $100, Alex? Yep. It's cents on the dollar. It's basically free labor that corporations benefit from, by the way, to the tune of a lot of money. To the tune of a lot of money. Like, I think it's in the realm of billions. How much does prison labor make? Okay, so here's just kind of like an idea. Just like a little snapshot. It was over 11 billion. Yeah, this is just in goods. This is just in production of goods. U.S. prison workers produce about 11 billion worth of goods and services a year for pittance, which are literally cents. Cents. Getting new reading glasses? Nice. That's just like a snapshot. If CEOs could have this like completely as a standard, if CEOs could pay us like pennies on the dollar, they would. Okay. It's literally still an amendment in the Constitution, the 13th Amendment. Yep. True.
You made some headlines by declining to say when or if you will endorse President Biden for re-election, saying that the union's endorsement has to be earned. I assume, is that still how things stand?
Yeah, I mean, it's we have a lot of work ahead of us, a lot to be done, and as we say, our endorsements are going to be earned, not freely given, and actions are going to dictate endorsements. So we'll see how things continue to play out, and we have a lot of issues to resolve. I mean, there's a lot with the EV transition that has to happen, and there's hundreds of billions of our taxpayer dollars that are helping fund this, and workers cannot continue to be left behind in that equation.
President Biden considers himself to be the most pro-labor president ever. Do you see him that way?
I think there's a lot of work to be done in that category. I mean, I look back at FDR and presidents such as that time frame, and that did a lot of work for labor. But I don't want to turn this into a debate about President Biden. That's really not what we're here about. I'm here to talk about our members and where we've got to get. So.
All right, so I'm going to get to the comments about Biden being the most pro-labor president ever in a second, but first on this endorsement or lack thereof from the UAW.
Yeah, that's like a pretty good response, I think. I think that's a very, very good response.
This is how it should be done. When you have labor power, organized labor, like, why should they just give up their endorsement 14 months early? Now, I do expect them eventually to endorse Biden because the Republican is going to make things much worse for labor, but you might as well hold out now. There's no political reason to do it. There's no pressure on you, really. It makes sense to try and, get some more concessions, get some more promises out of Joe Biden before you give that endorsement. To me, this is much different than, AOC or Bernie Sanders endorsing Joe Biden right now. It's just, you have politicians who are Democrats, essentially. I mean, Bernie's independent, but he caucuses with the Democrats. AOC's a Democrat. Are they really not going to endorse Biden before the election next year? Of course they are. Like, no, why are we playing these games? Of course they're going to endorse him. I don't think you're going to really get concessions from Biden for holding out your endorsement. Now, it's different if you're actually in a primary against Biden, but if you're not in a primary, what are you really going to ask for? There's no, it doesn't make any sense to me for people.
Well, the GOP are not pro-labor, that's for sure. Yeah, but also the point that David's making is that especially someone like a union leader or president of a really big union, I think you should use that power and say, hey, well, endorsements are earned. So what are you going to do for us? What policies are you going to do for us that's going to help workers? And he alluded to like a couple of them, or he alluded to something about like the EVs. I mean, RFK Jr. wants a DNC endorsement. Well, RFK Jr. is irrelevant. Not gonna lie, he's not there. There's nothing there. Pissed me off, but it's true about Bernie. What, Bernie just endorsing him outright? Like, the way I see it, I see it is like there isn't really a candidate right now, or even at the beginning of this whole like primary season or election season, I should say, there hasn't been a candidate that can really challenge Biden, much less a candidate that's a really like left wing, like really to the left of Biden. There hasn't, it just didn't materialize, and there's no real challenge it's not there. It's not there, and unfortunately, it's not going to happen this election season. Is it possible that maybe in 2028 there's going to be a more open floor? Yeah, it's quite possible. And I think that's the time to have more progressive candidates, or hopefully by then build a progressive candidate who has that type of that type of energy and grassroots behind them. But really, there's no candidate right now that has that. So this is just a long-winded way of saying, like, yeah, I see what David's saying, and I get it. And the way Bernie sees it, in my opinion, this is where my train of thought was going. Sorry, let me just kind of put it back on the rails, on the tracks here. The way Bernie is seeing it is, well, there is no one else, and right now we have the fascist train picking up speed. We have the far right picking up speed, and it is a possibility that Trump wins the presidency. It is a possibility that Trump wins the presidency. So I'm going to dedicate my efforts to do what needs to be done to pump the brakes on that. That's the only thing that I can think of, and the way Bernie's thinking about this. And the reason I say that is because I'm thinking the same thing. And I think Bernie realizes it. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's like mentioned or alluded to like the idea that like this far right movement has gone way too much steam, and the reality is Trump is going to be the nominee, and it is also a possibility that Trump can win. Okay, it is a possibility that Trump can win. Whether or not it's a high possibility, that remains to be seen, and I guess we'll know more as time goes on and as it gets closer to election season. But the fact of the matter is Trump can win. And when you see things like Project 2025 and the plans that these far-right organizations have put forward, it's pretty freaking scary. So, yeah, I mean, I think that someone like Bernie probably has seen the writing on the wall, like a lot of us have, and have preemptively decided that the play right now is to try to just really stop these people. That's basically it. That's basically the calculus being made here, the political calculus that's being made here, and I'm making the same one. I'm making the same one. Trump will have over 7 cases next year and will have little time to campaign. It doesn't matter. He's still a threat. It may be the case. It may be the case that as the actual election season kicks off, that Trump just gets completely obliterated because of this. That may be the case. But you know, I still have to treat Trump as the threat that he is. And after seeing that you know, after seeing what these people have in store, after seeing the project 2025, after seeing that, I mean, like, it really does, you know, it really does concern me if a Republican does win the election.
They get freaked out over these early endorsements from Biden or from Bernie and AOC and other more left-leaning Democrats, because they're obviously going to endorse them. When it comes to labor, they have more power, they have more sway. I think it makes sense. There's no political pressure. It makes sense to hold out. But on this idea that Biden calls himself the most pro-labor president ever, I mean, I think Sean Fate has a good response here. FDR is much more pro-labor. But with that said, you could point to some good things that are happening at the NLRB, which aren't necessarily Joe Biden's doing, but people that have been hired to take care of this stuff have been doing a pretty good job at the NLRB, with this recent ruling being the greatest example of that. I talked a bit about this in my breakdown of the debate between Crystal, Kyle, and Bree on voting Democrat versus Green, but I'll bring it up here as well. So
the first feature I want to point out is this curtain and roost.
Whoa.
From the actual NLRB website, their headline here: Board issues decision announcing new framework for union representation proceedings. So the quick summary from Reuters. The board says that the majority support for unions is enough to force bargaining, and this ruling applies when employers commit labor law violations. Meaning, in the past, if there were labor law violations, or if there were labor law violations committed by the employers in the past during a union election, then they would redo the election. Now, instead of redoing the election, they're just going to say, the NLRB is going to say, well, you committed labor law violations. We're just now going to recognize this, that these people want to unionize, and you have to actually negotiate with them. This is a massive step forward for labor.
Yeah, that's pretty big. Not gonna lie, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. One would even say that's poggers. One would even say that is poggers. Anyways, yeah, if you look at Project 2025, just read through this. It's like 900 and something pages. And it's pretty freaking scary. It's pretty freaking scary. I mean, like, look at the opening paragraph. With regards to the executive section of their plan. In its opening words, Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution makes it abundantly clear that the executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States of America, that enormous power is not vested in departments or agencies, staff, administrative bodies, or non-governmental organizations or other equities and interests close to the government. The President must see and enforce a plan for the executive branch. Sadly, however, the President today assumes office to find a sprawling federal bureaucracy that is all too often carrying out its own policy plans and preferences, or worse yet, policy plans and preferences of a radical, supposedly woke faction of the country. Yeah, this is delusional. But yeah, this is pretty freaking scary stuff. You can read it if you want. It's pretty scary. Girly Bear, welcome. The first mandate for leadership of the Heritage, the Heritage Foundation did was for Reagan in 1981. Jeez. Sadly, it's an old to conservative plan, but no difference of opinion allowed. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad. It's pretty freaking scary. So the point being is that this must be stopped by any means necessary. This must be stopped by any means necessary. And I think someone like Bernie probably read the writing on the wall. These things are not new. These ideas are not new. What are we talking about today? Labor right now. Welcome, Echo Wrestler Dragon. The potential for the United Auto Workers for striking. And earlier we went over a video about a CEO basically saying that workers need to be put in their place. And in order to do so, they should threaten workers with homelessness by layoffs. The implicit threat is that we need to control workers and we need to put them in their place by reminding them that they work for us. And if they don't like it, well, we should just fire them. We should fire them to remind them that this is the implicit threat that they live under every day. That's basically the TLDR. In fact, if you want to see what video I'm talking about, you can check that out, Echo Ressa Dragon.
So I think it's important to point things like this out while also recognizing that, or acknowledging that Biden is not the most pro-labor president of all time. maybe in, my lifetime, but I have not been around since
Oh,
FDR, despite how old I may look to some people. So let me get to the next clip here.
It is Taco Tuesday.
Into more about the contract and these big automaker CEOs.
Analysts say a prolonged strike will push up auto prices and dramatically hurt the economy. Are you worried about either of those possibilities?
It's amazing to me how analysts, when workers ask for their fair share, it's always the end of the world. And, no one, the last 4 years in general, in the last decade, these companies made $250 billion in profit. In the last 6 months alone, they made $21 billion in profit. In the last 4 years, the price of cars went up 30%. CEO pay went up 40%. No one said a word. No one had any complaints about that. But now, God forbid that workers actually ask for their fair share of equity in the fruits of the labor and the product they produce.
True.
And all of a sudden, it's the end of the world. So, if the talking heads, the pundits, the companies want to say that, if...
Damn, what a fucking phenomenal response. What a phenomenal response. Like, this guy's on freaking point. This guy's on freaking point.
If we strike, it can wreck the economy. It's not that we're going to wreck the economy. We're going to wreck their economy, the economy that only works for the billionaire class. It doesn't work for the working class.
Hear that, analysts? All right, UAW President Shawn Fain, thanks for your time today. I appreciate it, sir. We did invite the big three automakers to come on. They declined. The invitation is open.
I wonder why they declined. Jake Tapper here doesn't have much to say to Shawn Fain's response. I think he may even agree with him, support him, despite Jake Tapper not always being, pro working class himself. But when you have someone on like this making the kind of points that Shawn Fain is making, and you'll notice this with, any appearance in mainstream, which doesn't happen very often with these sorts of, union leaders that are on major networks. But when any interview like this happens and they make the points like they're making about, wealth inequality, there's rarely ever any kind of pushback because there is no legitimate, rational way to push back on the points they are making. The amount of money that people at the top of these companies have been making in relation to how much their employees have been making is just completely out of whack.
It's absurd.
So there is no response except to agree with Shawn Fain because he is correct. Now, I want to show you, before I get to the next clip, which is going to be that Ford CEO. And I mean, it's what you expect, but we'll get to that in a bit. Just to show you what the UAW is asking for. So stuff is not crazy, and they've already lowered some of what they're asking for since this, and I'll get to that in a bit as well. But this is on their website, UAW. So eliminating tiers, it's wrong to make any workers second class. The Teamsters ended tiers at UPS. We're ending them at the big three. So essentially meaning that any new employees at these big automakers, they wouldn't reap the same benefits as the current or veteran employees do. I think it makes perfect sense to eliminate those tiers and allow everyone to benefit, of course. So you have union leadership who are actually standing up for all of their workers, not just the ones that are with them right now. Big wage increases, so we're demanding a double-digit pay raises. Big three CEOs saw their pay spike 40% on average over the last 4 years. We know our members are worth the same and more. This is maybe my favorite ask because you rarely ever see unions ask for the same increase that the CEOs have seen. So they were also asking for a 40% pay increase. They have now lowered that to, I guess you could say, their credit in a sense, because they're showing they're willing to negotiate. But, you know, I think they understand they're not going to get 40%, but keep fighting for it because you definitely deserve it. But they've lowered it to 36% over 4 years, according to Bloomberg. It is now asking for a series of increases over nearly 5 years that would start with an 18% boost and then alternate between 5 and 4% annually over the subsequent years of the contract. And as they write here, Common Dreams does, auto workers' average hourly wages in the U.S. have fallen by 30% over the past 2 decades. And the UAW has pointed to major sacrifices auto workers made during the industry's crisis in the late 2000s as a reason for its ambitious contract demands. The union back then agreed to give up retiree health care for new hires and cost of living adjustments for all members as automakers pushed for a federal bailout in 2008. So while these companies were bailed out, and again, these executives clearly have had no problems since, have increased their pay dramatically, the unions understand that they made a mistake back then and are now asking for what they deserve. So that goes to some of the other points here that are being made. Restoring the cost of living adjustments, defined benefit pension for all workers, reestablish retiree medical benefits, right to strike over plant closures, which it's amazing they can't do this already. So the big three have closed 65 plants over the last 20 years. I feel like this is going to be a major sticking point for the big automaker CEOs. They do not want the ability for their workers to strike if they want to close a plant and move it, out of the country. Working family protection program and end abuse of temporary workers, more paid time off to be the families, and significantly increase retiree pay. So, all good stuff. Let me get to this clip from this. What's his name?
Paste.
Hi, this is Katie Porter.
The only thing that bothers me about this is that these union fights and strikes are still very industry isolated. There's almost 32 million gig and independent contract workers that can't get the same benefits of unionizing and striking. Independent contractors are not subject to the same privileges and protections as regular union bargaining unit, and an employer is not under the same obligation to bargain with a union regarding contract terms. Yep. Independent contractors who went on strike would not be protected from employer reprisals under the Labor Relations Act. Yeah, that's there's still a lot of work to do when it comes to workers' rights. But yeah, there is a school shooting in Greensburg, like a school, like a university. Is this at a university? At least 1 dead and 2 injured. The situation is still developing. This was about less than an hour ago. I mean, was this at a university? School shooting. Yeah, I don't see it, so I don't know if the media has caught up. Yeah, I don't see it. I can't find anything, any news right now, so...
Former Ford CEO Mark Fields. So here are his comments on these contract negotiations.
What are we, 15 years on from the financial crisis, but the lesson of the failure of General Motors during that period and just the challenge and struggle that so many of the other Detroit automakers went through as it relates to the way the union thinks about these things today?
Well, if you look at their demands, it's literally, they want to claw back literally all the benefits they had prior to the bankruptcy of GM and Chrysler. It's almost going back to the 20th century benefits they had. But we live in a very different world now. The Detroit Three have about 40% of market share in the U.S., where they used to have about 60. And there's many more competitors now, Andrew, particularly on the EV side. And so, you know, it's going to be it's quite a different world now.
Okay, dude. Yeah, it's quite a different world now where we rake record profits, but we refuse to give our employees what they deserve. Gotcha. Understood.
Yes, it's quite a different world now. So all of the workers that create this value for the CEOs, these workers, they have to compromise, while the CEOs get to enjoy their 40% pay bump over 4 years. Like, just, I mean, this is CNBC. This is the business network, so you expect this kind of talking point, but...
Just share the profits. Whoa! What are you, some kind of communist?
Like, if this guy was on, I don't know, almost maybe any other, maybe he was on, if he was on Jake Tapper's show, he would get some pushback there on that point, just because of the amount of money that executives have made while the workers have had to sacrifice. And I just want to go back, because I forgot to mention this in the previous, after the previous clip, but how Jake Tapper said, you know, he wanted Shawn Fain to respond to the idea that a strike will dramatically hurt the economy. I don't care for the framing of that question, but I understand that is the framing that is generally used. It's not that the strike necessarily may hurt the economy. It's that the greed of the CEOs is hurting the economy.
Right, like that's a better way of like framing it, and like the media, the mainstream media, and like, you know, these pundits, like the president said, these pundits, the way they frame it is just like, oh, well, aren't you worried that it's gonna hurt the economy? Aren't you worried that these CEOs, the infinite greed of these CEOs is going to hurt the economy? That's why employers want to keep pushing jobs to be 1099 based, because when they don't have to pay anything in benefits or unemployment, it's a way to prevent unionizing. Yep, 100%, 100%.
Willingness to give workers a fair contract, that is what hurts the economy. So we have to get out of this mindset that, you know, a strike hurts the economy in some way. It isn't the strike. Why are they striking? You have to go back to the source. Why are they striking? They're striking because they want a fair deal. So it's the people not giving them a fair deal. It's their fault. It isn't the strike's fault. It is the fault of these CEOs, these executives. It is their fault. They're the ones potentially hurting the economy. So it's important to, you know, deprogram ourselves from decades and decades of anti-union propaganda, the way news has traditionally framed all of these issues. It's even hard. I fall into it constantly because, again, we grew up in a world where strikes were never looked at as a positive thing. So you have to be able to get out of that mindset and really understand here who deserves the blame. And it is not the fault of striking workers. Now, I want to reference this as well in regards to this clown. So Bernie Sanders put out this is today actually, this new piece in The Guardian. So the UAW may soon strike. Every American should support them. Workers at the big three car makers earn less now in real dollars than they did 15 years ago as their CEOs make more and more. Their fight is everyone's fight. So I just want to reference some data that he points out here. In the first half of 2023, the big three automakers made a combined $21 billion in profits, up 80% from the same period last year. Over the past decade, these same companies made some $250 billion in profits in North America alone. Yet last year, the big three spent $9 billion not to improve the lives of their workers, not to make their factories safer, but on stock buybacks and dividends to make their wealthy executives and stockholders even richer. So all of these profits that they have, they're not spending them on workers. They're spending it to artificially inflate their own stock to make themselves wealthier.
Yep.
This is why, as Bernie writes, every American should support these striking workers. Last point on this, and I show this in basically every video about unions because I want to make sure any random person watching this video understands this. This is from the Economic Policy Institute. As union membership declines, income inequality increases. So the existence of unions, when unions are strongest, more of that income is going not just to people in unions, but to all workers, because unions raise the standard for what is acceptable in the workplace, acceptable in terms of benefits and acceptable in terms of pay. The existence of unions raise that. So that's why you see this connection here. Meanwhile, less unions result in more of that income going to executives. So it is very important to support the UAW here, as Bernie points out. The great appearance from Sean Fain on CNN. I hope to see him on more cable news shows because I think he does a really good job breaking these issues down and showing what the real problem is.
True. Admin Magic, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome. All right, let's shift some gears here. The Americans with Disability Act is under threat at the Supreme Court. Imagine spending weeks at planning for family vacations to be turned away by the hotel when you arrive, or not being able to attend family celebrations, funerals, doctor's appointments, or industry conferences because spaces are not accessible. Not only will you be irreplaceable, you will miss irreplaceable moments, but you'll also miss opportunities to live a full life and build your future. These aren't hypotheticals. These are scenarios these scenarios happen to millions of disabled people in the United States. As an intellectually disabled person who uses a wheelchair full-time, my many experiences with inaccessibility have trained me to see equity gaps where others fail to. I'm constantly reminded how the implementation of Americans with Disability Act fell short. The ADA, passed 33 years ago, is groundbreaking legislation that has transformed the lives of disabled people by seeking to make sure we have equal access to the world around us. However, the ADA enforcement largely relies on private lawsuits brought by individuals who have experienced discrimination rather than comprehensive government oversight. This reality has led to a culture in which businesses wait to be sued, hoping no one actually enforces the requirements rather than proactively complying with the ADA as they're legally required to do so. I'm back. Mama called me. Welcome back. That's where the ADA testers or accountability experts, as I see them, come in. Similar to testers seeking to enforce other civil rights laws, the ADA testers review accessibility barriers in order to counteract discrimination. I'm proud to count myself as one of them. We do this work because the alternative is that public spaces will remain inaccessible to disabled people, continuing the cycles of isolation, disproportionate poor health, and employment rates are worse. Unfortunately, the crucial role of ADA testers like myself is at stake, as the Supreme Court will hear arguments over whether we can protect the ADA's promise in Atkinson Hotels versus Laufer. I was innocently ignorant until the disability happened to me. I was until my adulthood that I was diagnosed with Arnold-Chiari malformation and found myself in a wheelchair needing a direct care worker to do daily activities. Before I became disabled, I never had to call ahead or do any reconnaissance for minimum level of inclusion. I was unaware of the extent which barriers still existed for disabled people, as I assumed the ADA knocked them down. I couldn't be more wrong. Now that I know disabled people constantly fight for our rights as self-proclaimed testers and self-advocates, after I became disabled, I spent many years making myself small and getting my wheelchair out of the way. Given my intersecting identities of being a woman and a person of color, my presence literally and figuratively shrank. After years of first-hand experience of the barriers and discrimination and ableism that exists in the world for people like me, I have become more intentional about making my presence known. I travel frequently for work and pleasure, and as a disabled person, I know I must come prepared. New research shows that I'm not alone, despite devoting hours to ensure that I have accessible accommodations prior to every travel experience. My basic biological needs that are rarely met, from carrying my own toilet and diapers, from bathing from a cup, to having my wheelchair damaged en route, to not being able to fit through a hotel room door. I get confirmation of the systemic failure of ADA enforcement everywhere I go. I've painstakingly learned the right question to ask, the dispositions to look for in customer service, and how to advocate for my rights. I know what it's like to not have no voice, what it's like to have no voice, so I use what I've learned to help others, including newly disabled people who are struggling to navigate this attitudinal, physical, and digital barrier. People with disabilities are the largest minority group in our country, and the only group any one of us can become a member of at any time. There's 61 million disabled people in the U.S., and hundreds of millions of others who care for them. Disabled people are diverse, crossing identities, age, gender, race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation and socioeconomic status, and will consider purchasing power. We're working and living in the same space as people without disabilities, but our needs are consistently ignored. Every day we encounter people and business who treat us as subhuman, which can often prevent us from leaving our homes. It's blaringly clear why we face the highest level of isolation and depression. There are a lot of negative perceptions around ADA testers, but let me be clear. Deborah Lawford, the respondent in the upcoming case, is an unsung hero. She's advocating for people she will never meet and people who will never be able to thank her personally and people who are not even disabled yet. ADA testers like Deborah Lawford and myself are partners helping businesses be intentionally inclusive. We are not only guiding their reputation and risk management, but also bringing in new revenue streams. Disabled people rely on one another to signal where we feel safe and welcome. If I receive accessible accommodations and leave a good review, I'm opening the doors to a vast consumer market. If I can't get into a lobby, hotel room, restroom, or pool, there are others so that they don't feel the same shame or guilt of being an afterthought or no thought at all. We may not always bring a lawsuit, but someone is always looking for diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and belonging. Whilst may be perceived as a burden, it should be a central paradigm for every person in business. It should be this transformation requires to prepare society for the next generation, including growing population of disabled people and untapped loyal job market. The conversation around disability must shift from cost to value, from liability to innovation potential. The disability community deserves and is entitled to a better day every life, and ADA testers are critical to ensure the promise of the ADA is fully realized. We don't get money or fanfare for successful complaints. What we do get is the knowledge that we're knocking down one more barrier to disabled people's human rights. After 33 years of the ADA, we should not have to do this work, but this is the reality we face. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to take a look at this case that's being brought to the Supreme Court and see what happens with that. This just sounds like they're trying to use more legislative ways to cull people in social murder. Yep. Being disabled, help is very slow and there's still a lot of ableism. I have CP since birth. Myself, I hope SCOTUS does not rule against this. Yeah, this is definitely an important case to follow. So we'll be paying attention to what happens in that Supreme Court case. The shooting has very little detail. Yeah, I couldn't find anything at all. Officials are responding to a reported shooting at the... Okay, so it is like at a college. Yeah, it's definitely at a college because I was like, at this time? Yeah, it's... Okay, so it's at a college. That's pretty much all we know. And unfortunately, 1 has passed and 2 are at the hospital. I hope they get everything and more. Any one of us can be disabled, and other groups like veterans and older get kicked aside. Yep. It's very recent and it's still developing. Yeah. I mean, it's yet another incident, and I suspect that we will just get thoughts and prayers, right? Another incident, and no action is going to be taken. No action is going to be taken. We're just going to hear the same regurgitated lines from politicians with no attempt to address the problems. Nothing. And the cycle repeats. Another incident happens, and so on and so forth. They aren't even doing the thoughts and prayers anymore. Yeah, I guess Why bother, right? No one believes the bullshit anyways. I'm so freaking sad. All right, folks, let's shift gears. So I guess we should preface this with this video. Matt Gaetz threatens McCarthy with daily attempt to remove him as speaker.
On this very floor in January, the whole world witnessed a historic contest for House Speaker. I rise today to serve notice. Mr. Speaker, you are out of compliance with the agreement that allowed you to assume this role. The path forward for the House of Representatives is to either bring you into immediate total compliance or remove you pursuant to a motion to vacate the chair. We have had no vote on term limits or on balanced budgets as the agreement demanded and required. There's been no full release of the January 6 tapes as you promised. There has been insufficient accountability for the Biden crime family, and instead of cutting
the Biden crime family
spending to raise the debt limit, you relied on budgetary gimmicks and rescissions so that you ultimately ended up serving as the valet to underwrite Biden's debt and advance his spending agenda. Mr. Speaker, you boasted in January that we would use the power of the subpoena and the power of the purse. But here we are, 8 months later, and we haven't even sent the first subpoena to Hunter Biden. That's how you know that the rushed and somewhat rattled performance you just saw from the Speaker isn't real. At this point, during Democrat control over the House of Representatives, they had already brought in Don Jr. 3 times, and we haven't even sent the first subpoena to Hunter Biden.
The reason why is because all this is nonsense, and the Republicans know this. The Republicans know this. Someone sounds desperate. Yep. Matt Gaetz was showing nudes on U.S. House floor like Hunter Biden. The same thing like Marjorie Taylor Greene. He was showing Hunter Biden, more Hunter Biden dick pics. Is that what was going on?
Biden, power of the subpoena.
Yeah, dude, how could I have missed it? Biden is the kingpin. True. Marjorie Taylor Greene showing Hunter Biden nudes. Yep. The simulacra, how's it going? I love this emote.
And power of the purse, only thing the 118th Congress is known for at this point is electing Kevin McCarthy Speaker and underwriting Biden's debt. And unfortunately, there's only one of those things we can remediate at this time. Power of the purse.
Okay. So, yeah, he's going to threaten repeatedly Kevin McCarthy unless he gets his way. The problem is he doesn't have the support to do so. He can call for a vote, but he's not going to win that vote. So, that being said, the deal to make McCarthy speaker made this inevitable. Yep. McCarthy made his bed, and now here we are. Representative Matt Gaetz, will lead the unsuccessful effort to deny Kevin's speakership bid, said Tuesday that McCarthy is out of compliance with the terms of the deal he made with conservatives to become speaker. The Florida Republican laid out the scenario starting every single day in Congress with the prayer, the pledge, and the motion to vacate. Yeah, this is pretty cringe. Gaetz said that the stopgap spending bill to avoid government shutdown would be an automatic trigger for a motion to vacate, calling for help from the 20 conservatives who resisted McCarthy's speakership. It's put up or shut up time not just for McCarthy, but for the 20, because if we aren't serious about bringing him into compliance with the deal, then we never were really serious about this deal in the first place. A motion to vacate triggers a vote that requires a majority of the House to remove the Speaker. This effort could require as much as 200 Democrats to side with Gates, which is far from certain and doubtful, unless like they think that I don't know. I don't think the Democrats are going to go with that, much less the other Republicans. Gates cited a lack of votes on term limits and balanced budgets and called out the lack of full release of the January 6th insurrection tape, argued that the investigation into the Biden crime family have fallen short. He also accused McCarthy of using budgetary gimmicks, blah, 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 blah. We saw it. The speech started shortly after McCarthy announced that the impeachment inquiry into President Biden, which Gates called a baby step following weeks of pressure from conservatives. On Monday, McCarthy dismissed earlier threats by Gates, saying he was not at all worried about losing his gavel. McCarthy dismissed Gates again on Tuesday. The one thing I made very clear, he can threaten all he wants. I will not inject the speaker into the independent ethics committee to influence in any way at all. McCarthy is being forced to navigate his most difficult hurdles yet as Congress looks to avert a government shutdown, with some members becoming more vocal about a potential leadership ouster. But Gates is not alone in a talk for a motion to vacate, with some conservatives floating the possibility of a bill on border security is not connected to the stopgap. So all this to say, this is an absolute circus. This is an absolute circus of Kevin McCarthy's doing. John Fetterman's response to this, absolute freaking circus.
Can we ask you about this news that Speaker McCarthy has formally launched an impeachment or has said he's going to
Oh my God, really? Oh my gosh, it's devastating. Ooh, don't do it. Please don't do it. Oh no.
We gotta run back to the office. What's going on? Can we ask you about...
That's pretty funny. Well said, ADT. Thank you. Yeah, this was pretty good. So all this to kind of lay the groundwork. McCarthy orders impeachment inquiry into the Biden crime family amid pressures from hardliners, the far right. Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced that he was ordering the House Republicans to move ahead with the impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Today, I'm directing the House committee to open a formal impeachment inquiry into President Biden, said McCarthy at the U.S. Capitol in a short formal statement. He did not take questions from reporters like, hey, what evidence do you have? Okay, what's the deal here? Why are we doing this? Is there evidence? What is the plan here? What are the charges? McCarthy previously indicated there would be a full House vote for an impeachment inquiry as has happened in the past, but as of Tuesday, he didn't appear to have the votes to even open one. The spokesperson for McCarthy tells ABC News that McCarthy is not expected to hold a vote to launch the impeachment inquiry. He has signaled a Biden impeachment inquiry for weeks, in part to placate GOP hardliners and in order to obtain bank records and other documents from Biden and his son Hunter Biden. The logical step will give our committees the full power to gather the full facts and answers for the American public. This is exactly what we want to know, the answers. I believe the president would want to answer these questions and allegations as well. I got it. So all this time, by playing this dog and pony show about fucking Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and the Biden crime family, or whatever the heck you want to call it. I see. So you have not been able to let me get this straight. You have not been able to come up with some solid evidence to connect any impropriety between like what Hunter Biden's in hot water for and the president himself. You have not been able to make that connection. In fact, you admitted you had no evidence. But I see what I see. So now you're gonna get the evidence, right? Now you're gonna find the magical links. Okay, dude. Better luck next time, clown show. True. McCarthy said House Oversight Chairman James Comer and House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan and House Ways and Means Committee Jason Smith will lead the inquiry. House Republicans have been investigating for months alleged ties implicating Biden and his son's business dealings, but have so far not been able to prove any wrongdoing. In other words, they have no evidence. McCarthy said the House Republicans during the August recess uncovered serious and credible allegations into President Biden's conduct. Taken together, these allegations paint a picture of a culture of corruption. Okay? Yeah, okay. I mean, like, print out the receipts, dude. But the GOP insists on King President Trump since 2015 and on. Bring down the Catholic Irish Mafia. Cool. I do not make this decision lightly, regardless of your party or who you voted for. These facts concern all Americans. What facts, bro? If you wanted to like make these allegations and just like you should have the receipts behind it. Otherwise, like no one's gonna care, and no one should care. All of this is a dog and pony show. Instead of actually working on real problems, instead of actually working to help the working class, the working class, this is what they're trying to do. It's a dog and pony show because they have done fuck all for people, and nothing to show for it. White House spokesperson Ian Sams responded to McCarthy's call for a formal impeachment inquiry. The Biden, quote, House Republicans have been investigating the president for 9 months and they turned up no evidence of any wrongdoing. His own GOP members have said so, which is true. He vowed to hold a vote to open impeachment. Now he flip-flopped because he doesn't have the support. Extreme politics at its worst. Yeah, so, like, the reason why he doesn't have the votes is because there's not enough evidence, right? Like, okay. Hunter Biden's lawyer, Abe Lowell, said McCarthy has shown he will do anything to hold on to his gavel, including launching an impeachment inquiry based on rape package and accurate conspiracies about Hunter Biden and legitimate business activities. I don't know about that, but the point is that they are trying to connect. They're trying to connect this to President Biden. I don't know. Hunter Biden probably did some sketchy stuff. And in fact, he's, pleaded guilty. But the point is that you had to connect this to President Biden. Otherwise, like, okay, dude, Hunter Biden, is going to face the music, and it is what it is. What does this have to do with the president? McCarthy spoke to reporters when he left the House floor on Tuesday, reiterating that opening an impeachment inquiry allows the House committees to get more information. Yeah, don't worry, the evidence will come. Because this is like freaking My Pillow guy saying like, yeah, the evidence is coming, the evidence is coming, the evidence is coming. Okay, dude. At some point, like, whatever, either to use Matt Gaetz' words, either put up or shut up. Okay, nobody cares. Unless you have some freaking receipts. Nobody cares unless you have some receipts. Now, if you've got some receipts, man, then fine. Go forth. But until then, no one cares. Okay? Everyone should treat this as the dog and pony show that it is. ABC's Rachel Scott asked McCarthy if he believes there's an impeachable offense that Biden has committed. Like, you're doing this in the reverse order. You're finding oh man, I forgot what's the what the logical fallacy is called when you're putting the conclusion and then you're finding the evidence to get to that conclusion. You're putting the conclusion first. You're saying Biden did something, and then, like, whatever it is, well, the evidence is going to give us the crime that we're trying to nail him on. I forget. It's called not begging the question. You're putting the cart before the horse. Okay? I don't know how to explain it. There's a logical fallacy where you're just basically starting at the conclusion and working your way backwards. But anyways, that's the point. Yes, Wolfglen, the car. Yeah. Essentially, I'm pretty sure like the picture's been conveyed that you're putting the cart before the horse. Exactly. Welcome, Wolfglen. I know what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Cool. The picture has been painted. Okay. The point being is that you're going backwards. You're going backwards. You're working from the conclusion backwards. Quote, all I've said is an impeachment inquiry allows us to get answers, to get questions that are out there. Don't you think the public wants answers? Well, I mean, if there's evidence, then yeah, but so far, all you're doing is literally just making stuff up. For all intents and purposes, this is all nonsense until you have some evidence, right? Confirmation bias? No, I don't think it's I don't think it's confirmation bias. Trashnomancer. I'm thinking of something else. Whatever. It'll come to me at some point one day.
Do you believe there's been any wrongdoing by President? Do you believe there's an impeachable offense President Biden has committed?
All I said is an impeachment inquiry allows us to get answers to the questions that are out there. Don't you think the public wants answers? I mean, you look at from your own network. I mean, I watched you what your network was saying. The American public believes there. We've watched just in the time period that we were gone, the number of new information we found. The president said that he had no dealings with his son's business. We now know from the business partner that he called in. We now know that he went to dinners, new Porsche, millions of dollars. We find now that he had a pseudonym that from his office used and communicated with the son about business from the office. We know from an employee at the White House from the vice president that he went back to Hunter's business partner and said the vice president got the talking points for Burisma and okayed them. So then we found from what could be the way his son is getting treated. We've watched the timeline benefit them by the statute of limitations that Americans don't get. We've watched an FBI informant allege about a bribery in there. These are all questions that need to get answered. I would think the president would want to answer these questions. Let me answer. So the thing, remember what impeachment inquiry is. What impeachment inquiry is an apex of power for the House. So when the House wants to go to be able to get the documents from these shell companies have credit cards. You've never looked at those?
Don't worry, guys. The evidence is coming.
And I think it could clear everything up to the American public and everything else. I think the president would be happy to do this. But if he uses his administration to fight us to even get the information, that's obstructive.
What? Okay. Senate Republicans will be briefed by Representative Jordan Comer during their launch on Wednesday, tomorrow. A Republican aide confirmed to ABC News the briefing will be the first direct taste of evidence that Jordan Comer say they've uncovered. Oh, no, tomorrow, folks. All right, we release the Kraken tomorrow. And it could be critical for senators who said they need more information on what the House has uncovered before they can even decide whether or not to back the actions. In a statement, Comer, Jordan, and Smith said they support the impeachment inquiry. The House Committee Oversight and Accountability and Judiciary Ways and Means will continue to work to follow the facts to ensure President Biden is held accountable for abusing public office or his family's financial gain. The American people demand and deserve answers, transparency, and accountability for his blatant abuse of public office. Okay, but you're making these statements without any evidence. But okay, you say you have it tomorrow. All right, we're tomorrow, folks. Senator Mitt Romney, one of the 7 Republicans who voted in 2021 to remove President Trump from office over his involvement in the January 6th insurrection, endorsed the use of an impeachment inquiry to gain more access to information regarding Biden's business dealings, yada, yada, yada. An inquiry is an inquiry. It's not an impeachment, said Chuck Grassley. And it would be up to me. It then seems to me it will open up an avenue to get a lot more information that we feel we've been stonewalled. Yeah, don't worry. The evidence is coming, folks. The announcement of a formal impeachment inquiry comes as McCarthy looks to stave off from possible revolt from conservative far-righters and avoid a government shutdown. And the GOP one is like Trump feels like 15 years plus. The House returned from recess on Tuesday with a fast approaching September 30th deadline to pass a spending measure to keep the government open. House Republican leaders are looking to pass a continuing resolution or a short-term funding extension to buy more time to hammer out details of a broader appropriation package. But members of the far-right House Freedom Caucus, the same group, Freedom Caucus, held up McCarthy's ascension to speakership and opposed his debt limit deal with President Biden, said they would not support a continuing resolution unless it contained certain language on border security and, quote, weaponization of the DOJ. Okay. The group is also opposed to further aid Ukraine and potentially putting the House at odds with Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell. Point is, we'll see what they come up with tomorrow. But I suspect that they don't have any evidence. This is all a clown show. This is all a clown show. You know, like I saw a meme that's like, oh, when you know, they need to distract the audience, they in a circus they send out the clowns. Well, there's a lot of clowns out now. So yeah. This is a dog and pony show. I suspect a big fat nothing burger, probably. I'll be honest, it's probably going to be end up being the case. So for the switching gears here, for the Tyre Nichols case, the brutal police beating, these officers have been federally indicted. And definitely we'll keep up with what happens in these cases. The indictment lists 4 counts, separate counts including excessive force and failure to intervene, deliberate indifference, conspiracy to witness tampering for former officers. I mean, I would add, I don't know, fucking murder. I don't know if they added that charge. The excessive force and failure to intervene counts a maximum penalty of life in prison. Oh, okay, I see. While the conspiracy to witness tamper and witness tampering counts each carry a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison. I see. So, like, basically, if they might think that this is an easier charge to win. I guess excessive force is easier to demonstrate, especially the video. If you've seen it, it's pretty freaking gruesome. And it can give a penalty of life in prison while also having these other charges as well, carrying up to 20 years in prison. I mean, they definitely deserve life in prison. That's for sure. All 5 men. Oh wait, no, they are being charged for murder. Oh, those are just federal charges. I'm sorry. I take that back. All 5 men who are part of the disbanded Scorpion unit also face criminal court charges in Shelby County for second-degree murder, aggravated assault, 2 counts of aggravated kidnapping, 2 counts of official misconduct. Never mind, I take that back. So yes, they are facing counts as they should for murder. Gotcha. Okay, cool. All right, we'll definitely keep track of what's going on with these cases. Accountability is necessary, and every time this happens, this is it. I mean, this is the only way. Every time police act this way, they need to be removed. They need to be removed from society. Period. If this is how you act as a police officer, yeah, you just need to be removed from society. Got to catch them all, exactly. So the point of kind of just going in this direction, we've got a new update on a case here. A police officer. There's a video that came out. He was originally not going to be disciplined or anything like that. Because it looks like he was on like a chase or something like that, and he supposedly accidentally struck a person and killed her. But now it was revealed that this dude had no empathy and in fact was laughing about this. So let's take a look at this story here. Shocking body cam footage showing a police officer laughing about a woman who was struck and killed by a patrol car in Seattle. Giovanni Candula was killed in a was killed in January on a crosswalk near her university campus after she was struck by a patrol car where police were responding to an overdose. Okay, so not a chase. They were responding to a call. Seattle police said the officer driving the patrol vehicle was responding to a priority 1 call. When the incident happened, the officer was going 74 miles an hour in a 24-mile speed zone. Police ruled the incident was an accident and returned the unnamed officer to duty shortly after. Here's a question. Police, like, when something like this happens, they have access to the body cam footage. So what gives? I'm pretty sure that an incident when it involves a fatality, accident or not, all of that gets examined, right? So it begs the question, like, what gives? How can you how can you miss that? Unless it's on purpose. Authorities are now investigating a body cam footage released by Seattle police on Monday from the incident, which shows Officer Darer, who's also the vice president of the Police Officers Guild, insulting and even laughing about the 20-year-old student. Yeah, in the crosswalk. Yep. In the footage, he can be heard saying he said she was in a crosswalk. There's a witness that said no, she wasn't, but that could be different because I don't know. That could be different because I don't think she was thrown 40 feet either. Mr. Adar can then be heard saying, quote, she is dead before laughing. He continues, no, it's a regular person. Yeah. Just write a check. Before laughing again with regards to this person, dying or, yeah. 11,000. She was only 26 anyway. She had limited value. Oh boy. Yeah. Hey, Google 40% of cops for more information as to the mentality behind that statement. Yeah, do yourselves a favor if you don't know already. Google 40% of cops for the explanation as to the mentality behind that statement. In a statement, the Seattle Police Department said the following video is identified in the routine course of business by the department employee who, concerned about the nature of the statements heard on that video, appropriately escalated their concerns through the chain of command to the chief's office, which following a review of the video referred the matters to OPA for investigation into the context into which those statements were made and any policy violation that might be implicated. This is department policy, said this, and the city's accountability ordinance requires. The statement continued, while any incident of public concern is under OPA, SPD, or OIG review, no city employee should comment either in their official or personal capacity in ways that suggest that any factual, policy, or legal conclusion have been reached about this incident. Yeah. That's pretty freaking messed up. And, like, again, to say that, like, oh, we missed it and, like, somebody brought it to our attention, I don't know, man. I just don't buy it. Cops lie all the time on their freaking reports. So I don't just buy that they accidentally missed it or didn't think that this was relevant. They probably had to do something because the employee who's managed to catch this reported it and they had no other choice, especially if it's like, has blatant evidence as like video and audio. Which is pretty freaking sad. The Office of Police Accountability is investigating. Kandula is a student. Ms. Kandula is a student at Northeastern University studying for a master's degree in information systems. Man, that's messed up. And to like laugh about that and being like, limited value. A person who is going to be who's going to have a master's degree in information systems, limited value. Okay. I mean, like, this comment alone is, like, enough for me to be like, where was this? Seattle? Yeah, Seattle. This comment alone is enough for me to be like, you know what? I don't think you should be out. I don't think you should be a police officer. This comment alone is enough for me to be like, I don't think you should be a police officer. Folks, training isn't gonna take this. Training isn't gonna change this. It probably meant to hit her thinking she was an opiate sex worker. I have no idea. According to the story that we know, the dude was responding to an overdose, and he was like flying through a I guess a college or university area, and he flew through like that area and hit this person. But yeah, the point being is that this guy's attitude, no. This dude does not need to be a cop, at all. And no amount of training is going to change this. This is beyond training. The moral of this story is that this type of attitude and stuff like that, this is beyond training. You can't fix this by just saying, well, we just need to train them more. No. Yeah, like basically he was saying like, yeah, well, not limited value was his words, to a person literally going to their master's degree. Town Square used to know what to do with people like him. Well, at the very least, he should definitely not be a cop. Alright, folks, we made it. Smooth ride today, folks. Folks, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It really does help us out. Thank you guys for your support. Thank you for the biddies. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for the subscriptions. If you guys want to support the channel, and you can't do so monetarily, just go on over to the YouTube channel and hit the big red subscribe button if you haven't already done so. It really does help us out. It really does help us out. I appreciate it. You guys are what makes this channel grow. Thank you guys for being here. Abon, if only we were property, might say something else true. Echo Rester Dragon, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hey, you get free Bakita emotes if you follow. Just saying. Free cat emotes. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Michael Hassler, for keeping the chat chill. I will be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time, folks. So join us here. Spread the word far and wide. Bring a friend. Bring a friend. Bring a friend. It really does help us out. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time. See ya. All right, folks, hang tight. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold on. I don't know what that's about, but just in case. Let me try this again. Alright, folks, hang tight. Sorry about that. Let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.